Hi there, it's me again, Jack Wallen, and I am here to talk to you about something. Now, before I actually get into this discussion, I need to preface this by saying this is not meant in any way in malice. I understand that there are extenuating circumstances for some people, and some people simply can't help their situation. The only reason I bring this up, the only reason I want to discuss this is to just simply make a point of it, especially to those who can improve their situation. Because I firmly believe that society would be better off if we did. Now, what is it that I want to talk about? I remember back in maybe the 90s, maybe all the way up to the early 2000s, that the average reading equivalency in the United States was the 10th grade. 10th grade. That's what? 15, 16 years old? I don't know. I think that's within the ballpark. So recently I did a little bit of looking into this and discovered that the average reading equivalency in the United States has dropped precipitously to the 8th grade level. Now, I understand, and I'm sure that you understand, that I have a particular dog in this race because I'm an author. And I happen to be an author who writes mostly for adults. I do have a couple of young adult titles, Among You, and I can't even think of the other one. It's been so long since I wrote it. It was a spin-off of the iZombie series. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. It'll come to me. Maybe. So I am not a writer prone to dumbing down my work. I have no desire to write to the average reading equivalency in the United States. And the reason I don't do that is because it's not who I am. When I read a book, I tend to prefer more intelligently written and artistically written books. I like a lot of depth and complexity to the works that I read, and that is mirrored in the books that I write. So I understand that it is to my detriment that I don't target the average reader. And that's fine, because I know that there are a lot of writers out there that do, and that's great, because that means there are a lot of books out there that everyone can enjoy. But to me, writing is a very special thing, and books are a very special thing. Books are something that should not only entertain us, but should also educate us and enlighten us to different trains of thought, different philosophies, different points of view. And sometimes those philosophies rise above the 8th grade reading equivalency. And so I honestly, I don't really target an audience when I write. Instead, I target an idea, a thought, a narrative, characters, universe, you get it, relationships. I target the things to me that are important to writing, to good storytelling. Now, that does not mean in any way, shape, or form that a book targeting the 8th grade reading equivalency can't be a good book, because it can. There are lots of really good books out there that target the 8th grade reading equivalency. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to whip out my Kindle and I'm going to read you a sample of a book that is written specifically for the 8th grade reading equivalency. Now, here's the thing. I'm hoping that my Kindle will behave because it's not right now. Of course, because it's, technology. So I'm trying to get back to my home screen, and this Kindle Oasis, they're crap. They are. It was an expensive Kindle, and I hate it. If you're planning on buying a new Kindle, do not buy the Kindle Paperwhite Oasis, because they's crap. And all I'm trying to do right now is get to my home screen so I can... This is great. I really had a plan here, and right now I'm stuck on this book that I'm reading that is definitely not the 8th grade reading equivalency, nor is it something that I want to read right now, because it's about a very dark period of human existence. There we go. Okay, here's the book. Come on, open up, buddy. There we go. All right. Now, again, as I was going to say, I'm not disparaging this book. I'm not going to tell you the author or the title, because that doesn't really serve a purpose here. This is really just so I can demonstrate to you what the 8th grade reading equivalency sounds like. Okay, here we go. For as long as I'd been playing basketball, all I'd ever wanted to be was a gym rat. I was just happy playing the game. All the other stuff, coaches, practices, and drills got in the way. Take my best friend JJ. When varsity basketball practices started Monday, his sorry butt would be stuck in the school gym 5 days a week until January, while I was living free, playing pickup ball at our local rec center. Sure, there were those nights when JJ would bring down the house with a game winner, and I would just get a little jealous because I wasn't down there on the court with him. But that was how it always had been, and as far as I knew, that was how it would always be. I was the gym rat, and he was the star. How that all changed started around Halloween, which had a lot to do with it too. We were playing pickup ball with the gym rats. It was 5-on-5, and as always, we were playing to 11, win by 2, which meant the game continued until one team scored 2 straight baskets. If the teams traded baskets like we had been doing for 20 minutes, there was no telling how long it would go on. At the moment, I had 2 things on my mind: trick-or-treating, and of course, beating Vinny Pesto. Okay, so what did we hear with that reading, other than my inability to read books out loud right now? Well, first and foremost, some of the indicators of an 8th grade reading equivalency are short sentences, monosyllabic words, and simplified thoughts and ideas. There's not generally a lot of complexity in that reading level, and that's simply because children of that age aren't quite capable of that level of complexity that, say, a Proust would write with. So the thing is, now imagine that what I read right there is the extent of the average reader's ability to comprehend a book. Now, here's why I think that this causes problems for society. And again, these are just my opinions, and I may be way off, and I very much welcome anyone to comment and set me straight if need be. The thing is that fewer and fewer people are reading. Why is that? Well, number one, reading takes time, as is perfectly illustrated on social media. If I were to post something on Facebook, let's say, a long post about any specific topic, but the idea is that it's lengthy, several paragraphs long, thick paragraphs, maybe some complicated thoughts, some longer words, some polysyllabic words. You get the idea. I'll post that. And I may get a handful of responses. I don't really care about likes. I don't care about that. Likes are really nothing more than a popularity contest. And the fact that it takes so little time to click a button to say, I like this, to me, that's lazy. If you really, truly like something, you will comment. You will state that you liked it. You'll state why you liked it. Or you'll state why you didn't like it. You'll state an opposing idea. Now, if I were to, instead of posting that long post, writing that long post, instead I create a meme, a picture, funny picture, whatever, with a single sentence that kind of either sums up my feelings or serves as a headline for what I would have posted otherwise, I'll get a whole lot more interaction with it. Here's why. People today are more drawn to images. And they, as people are doom scrolling, they will stop at images. When people doom scroll, they're not going to stop at a lengthy post because they don't want to take the time to read it. They're too busy doom scrolling through social media. And I've caught myself doing that. I've caught myself scrolling, and then thinking, why am I doing this? I could be doing something productive. I could be reading something. I could be doing anything but just sitting here scrolling and really not paying much attention to what I'm seeing. And that is really what it all boils down to, is the average person's attention span. What? Who was that? Huh? What? Has gotten so short. What? Did I see something? Did I hear something? That they can't even take the time to read a few paragraphs. And then when you compound that with complicated writing styles and words that will challenge them, they're even less apt to read what you've wrote. And the same thing holds true with books. But here's what's going on, is that it is a domino effect. The less we read, the less we are in practice of reading, the less we are capable of reading, the weaker our reading skills get. And if more and more people focus all of their attention on memes that have no depth, have very little room to make a profound or impactful point, which is not to say you can't make an impactful point with a meme, but I'm talking average here. Because most memes are just funny. They're just meant to make people laugh, which is good, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But if that's if that's where you get all of your reading material, your news, your information, you are doing yourself and society a disservice. There's a lot to read out there. There's a lot of really, really good writers, journalists, you name it. It's out there and it's accessible. And it's easy to consume. It's much easier than you think. Reading should not have a stigma attached to it. Reading is something that broadens our horizons, which challenges our intellect, which can whisk us away to far off lands that we've never been to before and maybe never will be able to go to. And bring to us scenarios that we heretofore have never imagined. Think about this. What if Tolkien never wrote The Lord of the Rings? What if George R.R. Martin never wrote Game of Thrones? What if, I can't even think of the person's name, but what if the Dexter books weren't written? What if Twilight wasn't written? What if Shakespeare never wrote a word? Imagine where we would be as a society if those things didn't happen. And I realized that I listed a lot of writers who wrote things who are more famous for the television and movie adaptations of their books than they are for the actual books themselves. But even so, those television adaptations would not have existed if the books weren't written and if the books weren't popular, if people didn't like the books. So think about it this way. I'm going to be crafty here for a second. The more books you read, the more books you tell other people about, the greater the possibility that those books that you've read and probably enjoyed will find their way to the big screen. Because that's how it works. Hollywood goes, what are people reading now? What's immensely popular right now? Because we've run out of ideas. And all we can do right now is reboot series that were popular before. So they find a book series that is hugely popular, and they say, okay, let's option this and see if we can turn it into a series or a movie. So think about it. You have far more power than you think you have, and books give you that power to not only educate yourself, but to help a writer achieve something that they might not have otherwise achieved. Because with the growing popularity of their book, the more likely the powers that be in Hollywood will notice it. I've had one book optioned. Nothing happened with it, unfortunately. But somebody did option iZombie I. And unfortunately, they optioned it during the pandemic. So it was doomed to start. Maybe someday they'll pick it back up, but I don't know. So in the end, you have to stop looking at reading as a chore and look at it as unlimited possibility. And I'm not talking about just fiction. I'm talking about nonfiction too. I'm talking about news. I know. News. It's not all political. There's other news out there. There are journalists out there who win awards and write great things and spend a lot of energy and effort and time into crafting their work, just like authors do. So what can you do? What can you do to improve your reading equivalency if you so choose? Well, the first thing I would say is to read more. And if you need to read something at the 8th grade equivalency, do it. Read it, enjoy it, and keep reading. The next time you read something, you might bump it up to 9th grade, and then 10th grade, and 11th grade, and keep going up. Because as you improve those skills, they're going to be exponentially more incredible works for you to experience. Books with depth and meaning and just and so much character and heart and soul. And that's not to say that the 8th grade equivalency books can't have those things, because they can, and they do. But the gratification you will receive for improving your reading skills, you can't get that anywhere else. So just start reading. Read more. Devour words, because words are powerful. And writers like me, well, we're not going to keep lowering the bar and starting to write at a lower equivalency, because that's not who we are. There are writers out there for that specific purpose, and they do great work. But those of us who aren't writing for that equivalency are up here saying, you can join us. It's not that hard. And it's and it's not, please don't get the wrong idea. It's not an elite thing. It's not an East or West Coast elite thing. Reading is for everyone. And I'll end it with this simple fact. that one of, not the most popular book anymore, it used to be, but the most popular book for the longest time was the Bible. And the Bible is not written with an 8th grade equivalency in mind. So if you can read that, you can read just about anything. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving me a little bit of your time today. I hope I haven't offended anybody, because that was certainly not my intention. I just wanted to highlight something that's important to me. And if I did offend anybody, I am truly, profoundly sorry, and know that it was not done with intent or malice. Thank you again for joining me, and I hope that you and everyone you know and love have a wonderful, wonderful day.